Welcome, everybody, to Who's Your Band. I'm your host, Jeffrey Paul. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Sean Morton. How are you, Sean?
I'm feeling fantastic, Jeffrey. I feel like the weight of the world is lifted off my head.
That's because you took all your hair off your head.
I did it.
I was going to take me. I don't know if I'm going to be able to look at you this episode. It's a tough look.
It's going to stay like this probably through the summer, just so you know.
It's going to be this short. You're going to keep it this short.
Yeah, because it grows back. So that's the whole thing. Not a big back. I've basically been stoned since 4:00 yesterday afternoon. So we're gonna have a great episode today.
We are, man. I'm happy to have this guy on the show, man. It's been a long time coming. I don't know why we didn't have him on earlier, but I'm glad we have him on now because he's a comedian. He has this new CD out. It's called Escape from Jacksonville. It's a special. I saw it. It is fucking great. It is really funny. It is really topical. And he's also the host of the American Loser podcast. Let's welcome our buddy, Mr. KP Burke.
Fellas, good to see you, man. Happy to be here. It's I'm also troubled. I'm glad that just Sean, you're in a good place right now with the shaving. You're doing it. This is Britney Spears 04 right now happening in front of us.
Great.
It'd be like it's so much easier to believe that you're okay if you also, when you were showing your hair just now, which by the way, you pull it off well. Then you also have a cast on your wrist, like someone. It looks like you're in some sort of a camp, and you're just like, they're treating me very well here. Everything's okay.
Me and Jeffrey are a couple of years older than you, KP. So let me explain something to you. Something as simple as your dog jumping on your leg can cause someone of a certain age to lose their footing down their cement steps and bash their head and arm. Doing the same thing, falling down the stairs to the point where the doctor actually said to me, listen, I could be frank with you, right? He goes, yeah. I said, yes. He goes, you're a big dude. You were a cunt hair away from breaking your wrist. That is his medical term, just so you know.
It's accurate.
I like how Sean, blamed it on the poor dog as opposed to the athletic ability of a 6'3", 350-pound bald man.
Let me you, okay, you little fucking dwarf. Okay, I am very athletic. Okay, my size means nothing. I am like a fat ninja. I want you to understand this. I am very athletic.
You may be a fat ninja, but you look like a newborn baby right now.
I look like a thumb. Is what I basically look like. But I will challenge you to a one-on-one basketball game. And I guarantee you I will win. If we're going to 21, I'm going 21-7 in my favor.
You're giving me that many baskets, huh?
Well, little Jewish guy from Brooklyn. I'm sure he's a great basketball player. Anyway, continue. Let's talk to KP. I don't want to ask you all that.
Yeah, I do want to talk to KP. And so where do we start with KP? All right, let's start with the album, okay?
No, you have to start at the height of KP's career was winning the Jacksonville Comedy Festival.
That's all right. Let's start with that. So I think KP and I think we met at Eastville Comedy Club. Is that right?
We were doing Randy Humphrey shows together, man, when I first moved back up.
Okay, I remember you because you had brought this up at one of the shows we were on together. I mean, I think it was maybe Kevin's show outside, and you said, when you first moved to New York, I think I was emceeing the show, and I think that's how we became friends.
Yes, sir. And then you were one of many. It's so weird when you try to have a credit for something, because I remember I started comedy when I was stationed in Jacksonville in the Navy, and it wasn't really an illustrious scene or anything like that. We had friends that were doing fun stuff and everything, but then you tried to have like a real credit when you move up here to try to seem impressive or at least relevant in the room, and I remember coming up with, it was a true thing that I won Rookie of the Year for the Jacksonville Comedy Awards, which was a joke award show we did. And then somehow or other, I want to say, were you there the Amy Schumer night? I think that was what it was.
Yeah. I hosted that.
So I remember having to go up after the place was electric because of her. And then you tried to help me out and give me like a good intro or something. And then you turned it into, from the Jacksonville Comedy Awards, you turned it into the Jacksonville Comedy Festival. And then enough people kept getting it wrong. And I was sitting there like, well, I'm just an idiot for telling people like too long of a credit and nobody actually cares. But now like people think there's a 12-year successful festival going on down in Duval County, Florida, that apparently I keep winning all the time. So you were part of the legacy of that, Jeff.
What you're saying to me is one of my favorite things in comedy so far, which is the fake Jacksonville Comedy Festival story was started by Jeffrey Paul.
Absolutely.
Fuck me, dude.
Well, I got to tell you, KP, I have brought up at least 3 other comics that have used that credit.
You know what I always say? Because we tease him because he's a mutual friend of all of ours. But I always say, anytime Ken Krantz will send me a text message like, "Can you give up on this Jacksonville Comedy Festival bit or something?" And I'll write back to him, Ken Krantz, 12-time runner-up Jacksonville Comedy Festival. But
very funny. So you got started in Jacksonville, and how were you did you do it when you got back from the Navy, or were you in the Navy to kind of take a little bit of break and then went back to comedy? How did your comedy career get started?
It was weird, man. It was I was always like one of the funnier guys in the units and stuff like that. Like I enjoy joking around and busting chops and stuff. I kind of, you grow up with enough funny uncles in your family, you're going to figure out how to tell jokes.
Did you go in right from high school?
I think I had a year of messing around where I was doing I actually worked at, oddly enough, speaking of Hoosier Band, I worked at Fountains of Wayne in North Jersey.
Nice.
Yeah, that was my one gig. So I had about a year of that under my belt, and they were trying to tell me if I wanted to stick around forever. And then I wound up going to the Navy instead. And then I guess my last year, and when I got back from Dubai, is when I started going to the Comedy Zone. They had like a workshop thing. And I'll ask you guys this: did either of you guys ever take a comedy class?
Yes.
You did?
One realized it was bullshit, and that was the last I did.
I actually enjoyed it though.
Were your classes taught by actual comics, though?
Rick Chrome.
See, that's good.
Comic, yeah.
See, this one was taught by the owner of the Comedy Zone, who was not a comic.
Oh, wow. Sounds like other people we know who like to get up on stage when they own a comedy club and they have no business being on stage.
I wish there wasn't such a wide spray for who that could be about. But
I don't know who you guys are talking about.
We'll talk about it.
You too many. This one was taught by the club owner, who he wasn't a bad guy, but he didn't know what the hell he was talking about. And
what kind of advice did he give you?
He would say, I'll tell you what, it was actually weird. He would say something like, that's a great joke, but you can't wear flip-flops on stage.
That's a good tip. He's right.
So he was right about that. And then the other one was, that always cracked me up too. When I think he was going to tell me I couldn't go on stage one night because I didn't have a collared shirt on.
He's right about that too. I mean, I don't get comics that go on without a collared shirt.
Yeah, stupid Louis C.K.
I mean, he just barely got by. Okay, but I mean, Sean wears a collared shirt. I always wear a collared shirt. I mean, you have to start wearing a collared shirt, KP, otherwise you're never going to make it in this business. That guy was giving you great advice.
I never realized how bad I dressed until I realized how many people just give me clothes all the time.
That's funny.
That is funny advice.
I've had multiple headliners I've worked with be like, "Hey, I bought this for you." And I was like, they don't want to be associated with me. It's I get it. I have a shelter type of look. I don't know. I got to work on myself.
What else did he say? Okay, you can't wear flip-flop. You can't wear a collared shirt. Did he help you with writing? Did he teach you the rule of threes? Did he give you any? Did he teach you like anything about anything about like building a? What did he say that was comedic?
He could talk to you about like the people that he's seen grow, which was kind of cool. And again, I got nothing bad to say about the guy. He was. It's a very weird story where. I'm not comfortable with, I'll say this. It was a weird story where the control that he exerted over his workshop was like borderline, like maniacal. And it was very strange to see the hero in this story is actually Carlos Mencia, that Carlos Mencia came to town and broke him.
Really?
You got to elaborate on this story a little bit more. There's a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah, I'll as quickly and succinctly as I can. So when you had to pay to get into this workshop, that you would do and for 8 weeks you would do, it was pretty much a booked open mic. And then you'd have a graduation show and you'd make a ton of cash because, everybody would come out on a Tuesday night for you or something like that. And then if you were in the workshop, you could work the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday shows. You get like 2-3 shows a month. But he was encouraging you to bring people. And if you didn't bring anybody, he didn't not let you go up. So that part was cool. But he was so, you had to attend the workshop routinely enough. And then you had comment cards. And you had to keep your grades for your scores above a certain average. Otherwise he would take away time from you and stuff like that, or kick you out of the workshop. And if you didn't go through the workshop and you weren't allowed on any of the shows at the club. So then it was pretty amusing because a couple of years later, after I'd moved back up here, I had an opportunity to go back down, and my buddy told me we had a Thursday, a Friday, and a Saturday lined up. And my buddy literally called me the day of and just goes, "Hey man, so the one place is closed and they never told anybody. And then the Friday, she didn't sell enough tickets, so we're canceling the show." So now I flew down to do one show on a Saturday. And I just happened to look on the calendar and I saw that Carlos Mencia was in town, and we have a mutual friend that we know. I won't say his name. It's his initials are KD.
Yeah. Good.
So I hit him up. I just said, "Hey man, are you in town? Maybe I can grab a guest spot on those shows or something." And he goes, "Oh, I'm not in town." He goes, "Hang on one second." And then he calls me back a few minutes later. He goes, "Hey, they just fired the host down there for the weekend. You're hosting all weekend at the club."
Oh, dude, that is great.
Yeah. So it was pretty great. But then it was fun watching the weird control that this guy who used to, the club owner who used to be able to kind of boss people around, especially when I was an open micer, he used to be able to do that. And then now he's sitting there, he goes, "Well, Mr. Burke, normally they don't do this, And then the club was in a hotel and they had like this nice buffet, like a full on buffet that the comics would get to eat at. And then Cisco Duran, who was the feature the whole weekend.
Oh, yeah, I've worked with him. Yeah.
Cisco's good people. He shows up and he goes, "Hey Fred, we're gonna get something to eat." And he pulls me with him. And he goes, "The host doesn't get to eat at the buffet typically." And then Cisco just looks like the club owner right in the eye and goes, "It's all you can eat though, right?" And then just hands me a plate, and me and him, and I'm telling you, I rage ate crab legs to take all of the $170 back that I paid to take his stupid fucking class. But he wasn't a bad guy, but it is fun to see people get what they could start getting away with, kind of alluding to what Sean was saying earlier, when people realize that there's no one there to shoulder check them, that they can just kind of behave as badly as they want to.
So you escaped from Jacksonville, and that's the title of the special. And you've been in comedy, what? You're about 10 years in, aren't you?
I think, last St. Patrick's Day was 10 years for me.
Okay, so that's a good time to actually put out this material. Yep. But the thing is, it's not dated material. I mean, if you listen to it like from the very beginning, he's talking about Joe Biden. And it's really, really clever stuff. It's really, really very, very funny. No, it really is. I think it's great. So how did the whole process come about, and why put it out now?
Well, it was exciting because I kind of knew I wanted to do something. We realized I do my podcast over at Mike and Ming's studio, the guys from Comic Book Men. They're kind of associated with the whole Kevin Smith world. Mm-hmm. And right. All the shit that they have in their studio, I was like, you could kind of, you're maybe 2 or 3 pieces of equipment away from your own like production company here. That's how much stuff that they had. And then I kind of got word through, they told me that they were going to open up the Smod Castle, which is where we filmed the whole thing. That's actually the video store from Clerks. So it's in the same strip mall as the Quick Stop. And we realized
that's how the CD opens. That's how the special opens.
Yeah, that was, it was pretty great, man. It was cool. I'm friendly with all those guys. Ernie O'Donnell runs that joint over there. And I kind of had a couple of meetings with him. We had known each other from a roast I did years earlier of all those guys. But I hit him up. I just said, "Hey man, when's an opportunity coming up here?" And he told me, he goes, "Listen, Clerks 3 is supposed to be wrapping up on this date. So this would be the weekend you could do it. It just happened to be my birthday. So he guilted all my friends and family into coming out for it." And we were able to record something there. We filmed it. And then literally the guy who's my sound engineer here, my version of Adam that you guys have is our boy, the Big Kahuna, who is actually a filmmaker. And he was so excited at the chance to do it. And we worked on a budget together and everything. And he shot the shit out of it, man. I've been doing the jokes for about 10 years, 10 years worth of writing, I should say. So he made it look good, presented it well. And then we just happened to get lucky that I was working on another project, and the people from 800 Pound Gorilla got involved. And so then one of them, I invited him to come out and hang out at the show because he's a great guy. His name's Chris Ells. I hit him up and he just goes, the next day he goes, hey, great time at your taping. He goes, can we talk about, can we do a meeting next week or something? And then the next thing I know, I'm winding up like signing with their record label to release the thing. And thank God I did, because I have no clue how to do. I can write the jokes. I can't do anything else, man. I'm a fucking moron.
People don't really, like when you want to be hands-on with a recording or a special like that, there are so many moving parts that if you really don't know what you're doing, it's going to show real quick. You know,
there's some, I'll tell you this one too. Sean and I are, I actually think Jeff's probably the best human being on this show here. Sean and I are both, we have some bitter Irish rage to us.
Horrible people.
But when I started realizing I wanted to do this was because I was seeing other people that I don't want to say better than, but people that I didn't think were ready to be putting stuff out. Mm-hmm. I saw them doing stuff and so rather than get angry and sit there and be like, you believe this fucking jerk off's putting something out? I was like, you know what, let me just, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm holding myself back. And I took a chance. And so far it's going pretty good, man.
3 separate times, I never released anything because I was very obnoxious and thought that I was ready to put them out. And then it just wasn't worth it. So when, I'm doing mine before the end of the year. So it's good when you know when you're ready, because you just hit a great point too. If you're putting out garbage material and you got to put it out there, it's going to stay out there. There's no pulling it back. So somebody can judge their whole opinion on you about, a stupid joke. I think it was great timing on your part to put this out too, because I'm going to be nice, Sean, for a while. And I don't like doing this. It really hurts me to do this, but KP, in my opinion, is one of like the, how like 5 years ago, you would see like Mark Normand and like Joe List and all these guys, they were always like right on the cusp and they were going to break out because they were opening for Louis and stuff like that. I kind of feel KP is the same way.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm kind of in the same camp with that, because I remember when the first time I met him, I remember on that show, and then seeing you followed Amy Schumer. You were always good. It's almost like you always like kind of like a natural thing. But I'm tired of being nice to KP. It's been too much. Did he just freeze?
No.
Yeah, he's frozen.
He's staring at your eyes.
Oh, there he is. He's back. Okay. He's back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with that one, guys. Sorry about that.
Okay. We were just saying we're not going to be nice to you anyway. It's enough. No,
I will. Listen, I worked with KP like, I don't know, 2-3 months ago, and he was featuring for me, and he did so fucking well that I bombed the shit out of 45 minutes after him. So I'm totally fine with saying that. He's a great...
Didn't your stairs kill you again or something that weekend too? You were a hurting camper, man. Don't...
Hurting kid.
He falls off his stairs at least once a week now, KP.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when he does poorly on stage, he blames it on falling off the stairs and the dog, and the poor dog gets beaten at night, and that's what happens.
Well, I appreciate all the nice things you guys say too, man, because it's been it's always fun working with you jerks.
Busting friends' balls, but like when the hundreds and dozens and tens of people who listen to this podcast, they do value our opinions. So if we do say something, they will go out and check it out.
So also tell people how they can get a copy of this or watch it. I watched it on YouTube. Are you able to make money off of it by watching on YouTube? Because it's a lot of views that you have to get. So how can they get like a copy of that? How can you do well on this?
Well, it's weird. It's such a strange time for that. It's like to almost try to make it like rock and roll or hip hop or something. It's about getting like mixtapes or demos out there that people can hear. And then, it gets some notoriety to you. So YouTube, I forget what the number is. They keep moving the goalposts for what I would have to do to then get, to start seeing like a check come through or something. But once the SiriusXM lawsuit is over, that'll go on there, which is nice. I got a couple tracks on there already from a different project. Best thing people can do for me right now, it's a fucking free special, man. It's free. It's on YouTube. It's called Escape from Jacksonville. You just check that one out. If people comment, that helps out with the algorithm. And then the feedback's been really good. I don't know how this one exactly happened. I would not have known how to do the reels, kind of like what Sean was saying earlier. I had no clue how to roll out a project, but that the one COVID joke that I have, they turned into a reel, and it was pretty cool because I was kind of in disbelief when I checked it last night before I went to bed. It's over 1 million views.
Oh, wow. There you go.
So that part's going out. That's pretty cool. I think this is just going to be like a calling card to try to work more clubs.
Yeah.
That's kind of the goal, man. It's just about putting something out there that I like. And I like when comedy fans like your shit, you know what I mean? But of course they're also cheap fucks, so they don't buy anything. But,
but it's kind of like the changing of the guard in the music business. Because back in the days, it used to be like you used to go on tour to promote your album, so people would buy your album, so you get points off the album. Points were percentage points, so you would get cut on the album sales. Now a lot of musicians are not even affiliated with a label; they don't have to be putting out free music just so they could fill a room and sell merch at the room and get it. So the whole industry kind of went reverse, and that kind of, because I'm seeing guys like you, Sam Morrell, even Mark Norman just put out something free on YouTube.
Well, I think you wind up making pennies on the dollar if you go through. So, and also it's changing too with like I know people that have put something out on Comedy Central, and they're like, more people will see this if you put it out on YouTube and just promote it yourself. It's both ways to beat the system.
A guy that we're all friendly with, he says it all the time. Mike Racine was talking about like how he had his special on Comedy Central, and what they air it 2-3 times on at 3:24 in the morning. So I mean, I don't know if those specials even have the cachet anymore. The whole point
now that's pretty big is probably a Dry Bar special.
Bar is a good one.
Their rules are crazy though.
Yeah,
a friend told me that it's like you get like $1,600. You got to fly yourself out there. You can't say anything remotely religious, controversial, political, anything. It's filmed in front of like old Mormons.
Yeah.
Like you can't even say dick or ass or anything like that. It's got to be squeaky, squeaky clean. Vanessa Hollingshead did one. She said it was the most stressful thing she's ever done in her career.
I'm still blown away that Gaffney pulled off a 45-minute for them. That still blows my mind.
It's not 20. It's not 45 minutes though. You film about 25 minutes.
Oh, is that how they? Even that. I mean, I can't go through a phone conversation with Mike Gaffney without him dropping 2 F-bombs usually.
But let's switch gears a little bit here and tell us a little bit about American Loser podcast.
Oh man, that's a fun one, dude. It's coming up on 4 years now. It's the idea started out as a book. It was going to be, I wanted to write, and I should probably do it because we're coming up on an election year in the next 2 years, but it was going to be a little, each chapter of the book was going to be about the person who ran for president that election and lost. And
that's why it's called American Loser. There you go.
Yeah. So and then you realize as you're going through, like, wow, this guy ran for president how many times and never won it? That's pretty trippy. And then you do a lot of interesting characters. So what we wanted to do is then I started putting together like who would be the biggest loser in American history, whether it's Aaron Burr or anybody else like that. And the guy I always loved history, and I'd be bouncing these ideas off my dad all the time. And then he would say, he's like, oh, that's a pretty good one, man. He goes, actually, I was researching this too. And we're having this conversation. I said, you should probably just be my, you should probably be my Sean Morton, and come on the show and help me out here. And so me and my dad have been doing the podcast for about 4 years now. And we picked up a weird, very eccentric fan base. A lot of characters.
Well, history people are very, very passionate. They are very eccentric. You mentioned Aaron Burr. In your opinion, biggest loser? I mean, Sean, do you know who Aaron Burr is?
Well, he just left In Hot Water, right?
Yes.
I did sheetrock for him. That's a true story. I hung sheetrock for him when he moved to Jersey. But Aaron Burr is a good one. The craziest guy that we found throughout the whole.
You can go crazy. Just a little background about Aaron Burr. Okay, he's a guy who he was a loser because he ran for president. Okay, right. He winds up being Jefferson's vice president. Has severe beef with Alexander Hamilton. They go to a duel. Hamilton doesn't think it's actually going to be real, and Burr is like, it's fucking real. Okay. He shoots him once, kills him,
in Jersey,
in Weehawken, right? And then tries to run for governor of New York, which I think Hamilton kind of sabotaged in a way, and then was going to try to bring, I think, and back me up here, KP, he tried to take the New England states and form a confederacy.
Yeah, he was part of a cabal, if you will, where they were going to try to overthrow the very infantile United States government. So he was going to become the president of his own section of the country, if you will. He's a pretty ridiculous human being. And by the way, I forgot you were a learned fellow there, Jeff. No, that was a pretty good synopsis of old Aaron Burke.
Well, I just find to be such an interesting character. And when you talked about the premise of your show about being losers, I mean, that's a pretty big loser. He wanted up living the rest of his life in exile in Spanish Florida, because at the time, Florida isn't part of the United States. So, I mean, yeah, the guy went from being the second guy in the United States, although it is very, at the beginning of our country, but he winds up living the rest of his life in fucking Jacksonville. I heard he went into comedy, and he was runner-up to one of KP's like great ancestors, JP Burke.
That would do it, man. Burke. There's something there. The craziest guy that I ever heard of was around that same time frame. That was James Wilkinson. I don't know if you ever heard about him.
No.
I thought he was a god for the Jets. That's Muhammad Wilkinson. Shit. Okay.
Well, James Wilkinson is a pretty wild dude. He was at 3 separate times he was head of the United States Army, and the entire time he was a traitor selling info to Spain. Wow. He was. Yeah, but it literally people knew that he was like, oh God, he would sell military supplies to people. He was just like the biggest scumbag. And they finally busted him sending messages down to the Spanish or whatever. And it was almost like an episode of, remember the show The Shield with Michael Chiklis back in the day and the corrupt cops? There was a great one where I guess Chiklis's guys got pulled over or something like that with like drugs in the car or something. They're like, oh yeah, it's part of this undercover beef or something like that we're doing. And they have to call Michael. So they literally call their corrupt boss to come bust them out. We're like, oh yeah, these guys are with me. Everything's good. The Spanish guys that got captured, the spies with like all this info that was going to show that Wilkinson was a traitor to the United States. Nobody spoke Spanish. So they brought in James Wilkinson, who spoke Spanish. And then he's like, oh, they're fine. These guys are okay. Don't worry about them. And like literally Washington knew the entire time that the guy was a giant scumbag. He wound up, I think he sold after he left the United States military, he wound up trying to like become the Emperor of Mexico or somewhere. He was going to be the right hand of the Emperor of Mexico. And he kind of just sold military secrets, was a total, he's the biggest scumbag in American history. And nobody knows who he is.
He got caught.
Never.
No, he never got caught because he would have then been tried for treason.
Yeah, they tried getting him involved. He actually ratted out Aaron Burr for the cabal, where he was like such a corrupt guy. And then he realized that Burr's cabal wasn't going to work. So then he goes, and told Washington about it. So he was a rat on top of being a scumbag. I mean, he was pretty wild.
So who, out of all the presidents we've had, well, we have up to 46, who do you say is like a guy who you like? Is there someone, who's your favorite and is your least favorite?
Calvin Coolidge has some of the best stories about him that, he wound up only doing the one term, and they asked him if he was going to run for re-election. He goes, no, I already did everything I wanted to. And then the best story I ever heard about Coolidge was he didn't talk much. And I guess there was like a big White House dinner or something. And he had a dinner guest, like some very young, pretty, like modeled girl sitting there at the table. And she goes, I have a bet with my friends that I can get you to say more than 3 words tonight at dinner. And Coolidge, his response was, you lose. Never said another word to her.
Great.
Yeah. He had, you see, we should have gotten his campaign people to write for us because he had a great campaign slogan when he ran. Do you know what it was?
I'm trying to remember.
It was keep cool with Coolidge. So fucking bad. Keep cool with Coolidge. You can see them like in a writing room, and they're like, "Oh man, this nails it. This is so on the edge. Yeah, we gotta go with that. Keep cool with Coolidge."
For the worst, I would probably say it's Warren G. Harding. He's pretty bad.
Why Harding?
I think he lived the best life ever. He lived the life that I think the three of us all want to live, where everybody likes you while you're alive, and then all the bad stuff that you did in your life comes out, but only after you're dead.
Oh, all mine's out there already.
See, I figured a guy like UKP, I figured would go with Hoover.
I mean, that's another guy that was super, super popular until he got into the office of the presidency. And then he just turned into, when they name the vagabond towns after you, that's not a good thing.
Yeah. When they call it like Hoovervilles with showing with these like shitty shacks that, it's depicted really good in the movie Cinderella Man. Okay. To see how people actually lived. A lot of comparisons to like what was going on then and now. Especially during the pandemic and just government fucking up, they called like a newspaper Hoover blankets and they did because people would just sleep on park benches. And his theory of economics was fuck giving people immediate relief, because when people don't have money, they don't want money. They want the companies to get the money, and then the companies will filter the money down, which the companies did not do.
It's that trickle down thing that we always hear about where it makes some sense. And you're like, but only if everybody's, doing the right thing. And it's very hard to get a room full of people to do the right thing, let alone a nation.
Well, the thing is, it's the reason why you study history is so you're not condemned to repeat it, right? So when Obama is in office, and the car industry is on the verge of collapse, he at the time, it was a lot of money, $750 million, and he gives a bailout. But there are no provisions in this bailout. So what do you think the CEOs do with that money? They give it to their stockholders. It doesn't get trickled down, and they have to give another bailout, this time with provisions on it.
It's I'm kind of a man without a country when it comes to politics, because I have so many things where I lean right on, then I have so many things that I'm pretty left wing on.
You talk about it.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way though too. I'm very middle ground.
No, but
that's where logical people are supposed to be. Yeah. The response to the clip so far too is hilarious, because if somebody, I've been called I don't. We've been pretty civil here on the show, but I've been called a liberal faggot and a racist redneck for the same joke. Just nothing different about the joke, but it's because people just get mad at you. They want you. They're not mad at me. They're trying to win an argument that they lost 3 weeks ago that they replay in their head in the shower every night, and then they see this opportunity to kind of sink their teeth into you. So it's there's so many. I got called, what was it? Somebody wrote a comment where they said, this clown should be on CNN, the comedy news network.
That's good shit. That's a good fucking joke right there.
Like, if you could tell some of my liberal friends that I should be on CNN, their heads would explode. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
No, it's tough with that stuff, man. They get you. Actually, I dunked on somebody pretty good the other day. He's a good friend of mine. You guys would know who he is. He's a great dude. I can't say his name just because it's not a great look for him, but he was talking about moving to Pennsylvania, and now that he lives around all the rednecks and stuff like that. And he's doing this voice. He's one of those guys that has to throw his politics into every conversation.
Okay.
And he's a great guy, but he's talking about, he goes, oh yeah, I live out there with all the rednecks. You know what I mean? The ones, the real rednecks, like with the shotgun in their hand, like they're saying the election was stolen and they're mad still. And I looked at him, I was like, oh, they're still mad about 2000? That's crazy.
That's great.
Speaking of guns, what is your whole, both of you guys, what's your whole take on this whole new gun reform movement that the country's kind of moving in? What do you guys? I haven't heard Sean, you even comment on something like this.
Yeah,
we haven't.
I'm not a very political dude in the least bit, but I don't know. I'm kind of, when I see on middle ground, there's certain things that like I just think are logical. Like I just feel like a woman has the right to make a decision for her body, but she also has the right to have a handgun strapped onto her hip if she walks into an abortion clinic. Like that's kind of the logical thing that I talk about. I don't see there's any reason for any kind of like military style assault rifles. You know what I mean? Like I don't see the need for that. I think every house can have a gun all you want. I mean, have a hunting rifle and stuff like that. But like, I don't know, if you can like blow up a goddamn fucking building But the thing, you really shouldn't have the need to have it in your house.
What do you, KP? What do you think about this?
It gets complicated because I want to as in like my morality wants me to agree with Sean, but then it's like when you get into the details, that's where you realize like an AR is actually an all-encompassing term, and it can be just about anything. Yeah. So, they always do the dumbest things too, because the same way you were saying, like just when the government tries to help, they actually just fuck more things up. Like what was it? The no more folding stocks on rifles and stuff. Like I'm a gun owner. I grew up shooting, stuff like that. You know what I mean? We'd go hunting. My uncle would take me out. We'd go after deer and stuff like that in Jersey, or most recently South Carolina. And I'll put it this way. This is where I get comfortable and uncomfortable. You got people that have the strongest opinions about guns and then no knowledge about how they work. They've never even shot one. So that's kind of mind blowing. And then there's the other part of it where you're like, oh, cool. Maybe maybe NRA people are, going to make more sense to me. And then you see that you can win an AR-15 in a raffle. And you're like, I don't want that either. That's
no, there's got to be some type of middle ground. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that there needs to be some type of gun reform. Okay. But, there are people who are suggesting they're doing it in Canada, just say, we're just going to take away all your guns. And now think about you're a guy who lives in a place like in the sticks somewhere in Pennsylvania, and there's no police around, or the police aren't going to be able to come, some of these little towns, they close their doors at 9:00 and you're pretty much stuck defending yourself. We only hear about these things in major cities, but when you really go, I mean, you guys have all been on the road. When you really, travel and see what America is, it is a lot of these little hick type of cities. And, these people, they use them as a means of defense, and it's in the Second Amendment. So, it's like, I think you need to be, when you was talking about people never shooting. Okay. There are people who can buy a weapon without ever shooting. I mean, I think you need to qualify. I think you need to requalify every year. I do think the age should kind of go up. If you can't, was it at 21? I think 21 kind of makes sense to me.
21's not a bad one too. Jersey's actually I don't have many problems with New Jersey's gun laws. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass, but I also was concerned when I was living in Florida, and I remember going to Dick's Sporting Goods to buy a shotgun, and I was like, all right, cool. So I'll pay for it here. And when can I take it home with me? And the guy behind the counter was like, you're not taking it now. Like it was, I walked out the door with a shotgun that day. That was a little trippy for me, but then Jersey's laws are a little backwards. And of course they got to rob you twice, because you got to put in, money for permits and stuff like that. Cause we're the Soprano state. Everybody's got to get paid. Fuck you, pay me kind of a thing. But, all in all, the way that they do it for Jersey is if you want a pistol, you get a firearms ID card, so that there should be a little bit of a way for them to have a registry. You know what I mean? I'm not against that. There's also ways around it too. If you get a shotgun, like my shotgun was given to me, it was a gift from my uncle. So I got to keep that, gun after he passed away, which was really cool. And then my grandfather brought home pistols from World War II that are not registered. So it's weird. It's like, are we housing an illegal weapon right now, or how do we? I don't know. He took it off a dead German over in.
Can they still fire?
The one does, yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
A Mauser pistol. It was, I think it fired a .32 caliber. I'm not sure. I'll have to check on that.
Oh, that's a great piece.
Yeah, it was rare too, man. And my grandfather was funny. He goes, I wanted a Luger instead, but whatever. You had to take whatever you took off of who.
But you know what the thing is, like I live in New York, you guys are in Jersey, but you look at states like New York, New Jersey, Illinois, Los Angeles, they have some of the strictest gun laws in the country, and still doesn't deter people. So is it and suppose like you played the whole thing out and just say, all right, we're going to just take away all the guns. You don't think like these maniacs will find either illegal guns or a different way to wreak carnage?
Yeah, just start making bombs.
Well, even bombs. How about what happened in December? You just have someone like, hey, there's a Christmas parade. You have a bunch of innocent people and just drive a fucking car through them.
You can see other countries that have done it too, where it's I think England took away most of the guns. And then Australia took away majority of the guns. And the thing you were saying too, that's so pertinent too, is response time is bad. Like, I don't think we'll ever fully get rid of guns because North Dakota has to wait an hour for an ambulance to show up. You know what I mean?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And the country I think you're referring to that did away with guns and then kind of like used them against their own people is Syria.
It is bad. It's always it is a fallacy to talk about a slippery slope, but there is so much like chaos with the gun thing. Like it's because again, the same way, I'm not saying it's the same thing, but the same way where it's they're very quick to say that men shouldn't be making laws about women's bodies. You know, whether it's a lack of understanding on our part or whatever. Okay, I'll listen to you on that one. There's some legitimacy there, but also the people who have never shot a gun. I read an article of a guy saying, I just fired an AR-15 and it was absolutely terrifying. And I have PTSD from it now. And this was like a legit article. And I was like, I remembered because.
Did you see this article?
Oh, this was a couple of years ago. It was right after, unfortunately, I think it was right after the Sandy Hook shooting. And that's the thing is that these shootings are so friggin' devastating and it's brutal stories. You never want to hear this stuff. It's like horror stuff. But then the response to it that this guy had was talking about shooting an AR-15, which I think you guys have probably shot him before, right? I know Jeff, previous job probly.
I've done it.
Well, the recoil is so light on an M4.
I may or may not have them in my house.
The recoil is so light on an M4 that you can go full auto and put the butt of the gun up against your crotch and it wouldn't even hurt your junk. I'm not saying I did it in Florida one time, but we proved that that's correct. Okay. That was, but yeah, that the people that get nervous and then they say something stupid or whatever, I just want all guns gone forever. And it's like, that's very nice wishful thinking, but you have to apply some reality.
Well, the whole thing is in comedy and on some of these talk shows, it's all about getting it's not even getting laughs. It's about getting clapping points, it is. And so you'll say something like that and people go, oh, that's so profound. It's so profound, but it's so inaccurate. And it looks like you just said something like really valid and it's the stupidest fucking thing you've ever heard, KP,
Beto makes me laugh.
Oh, is there a more pandering guy in the world? Is there anyone who could just be authentic?
I don't think he wants to win anything that I think he's one of those guys where he's like, all right, so I can make some money if I run for this. He goes, but I don't want to win because then if you win, you have to do the job. So how are you going to try to run for governor of Texas? And you're saying, you're damn right, we're coming in for your AR-15s. Like, you're going to say that to Texas, man? It's like coming to Jersey and saying, we're going to outlaw pizzerias, man. There's not. Ridiculous.
Oh, we did see a guy win twice and do nothing but just ruin a city was Bill de Blasio.
That's Sean and I live just close enough to you guys that the mayor of New York actually does impact us a little bit. That's
you're not from this generation of KP, but Jeff is New York City in the late 90s when you can go to Show World and possibly walk out of there with hepatitis. That was some of the times in New York City. And completely gone. It's never going back to that era.
I remember when I never told you this story, Sean. I was in high school and me and my friends, we were taking a big trip to the city, right? And we were going to see a Marilyn Chambers porn. And we get there and it's the premiere. I don't know what movie it was, but it's the premiere of the movie. And she's downstairs and she's signing autographs. So we're like, oh man, we got to meet Marilyn Chambers. So we get online and they give you a picture and she's sitting there completely naked. Okay. And the picture is her naked, but she's sitting on this almost like this throne. And she signs the picture and I'm looking at the picture and it's a picture of her fucking spread eagle. And I was just kind of thinking, can you imagine all the shots that they took before they chose that one? She was there with the little monocle trying to say, oh, that, my pussy looks good in this one. And here it's a little too blurry over here. But that was New York City.
Yeah, and then the camera adds 10 pounds of pussy.
Right. Then that same night, I don't know if you guys ever got caught up in this scam. Like, so you go like to the bar and a girl comes over and says, "Hey, can you get me a drink?" And you're like, "Yeah, you want a beer?" And then she gets a champagne cocktail and it costs $30. And like, you're a high school kid, you know, you guys like is like 40.
Yep.
Like, I can't afford this.
Oh God, yeah. I love how Jeff knows how his favorite porn star's name is Marilyn Chambers because he met her. But like my favorite porn, her name is like a Colombian grandmother who uses like a traffic cone in her ass.
Well, the thing, we went to the city and it was like, that was the big thing, you know. It wasn't like the convenience of KP's spoiled generation where you could just sit home and masturbate. No, we had to fucking put in work, KP. We had to drive into the city. Actually, we couldn't even drive because we didn't even have licenses yet. You took the express bus into the city. Okay. You went to Showtime. Okay. The show I was talking about. And trust me, those things on the floor weren't egg drops. Okay. If you stood still for more than 15 seconds, your feet stuck to the ground.
Absolutely. I'll never forget one time we went to Show World and it was kind of like a U-shaped theater.
Yes.
And the booths, you know, come out, whatever. So it was me and three of my friends. So my one friend, you know, it's four of us in a row. And so we're leaving and we're like, oh, like, I don't know, 6, 7, maybe. And we're all laughing like assholes. And my one friend goes, yo, what'd you do? I was like, yo, I grabbed her tits. I'm like, yeah, I saw. And the other one's like, well, what'd you do? And it's like, oh, I touched her ass. And then my best friend goes, what did you do? And I go, here, smell. And I ran my fingers right across his face. And he's so fucking hard that I still have like a little bit of hearing loss in my right ear. I used to love those things growing up, though. It was the hunt, like Jeff was saying too. Like when I was a kid, like you grew up with internet porn, like basically right in front of you, you know. And you're not much younger; you're only about 10 years younger than me, but that's a huge difference. It's a huge, huge difference. I would have to go on a bus to like this one store, like 25 minutes away, and it was just loose tapes. Like loose VHS tapes. And they weren't even like with the ones like with the fancy labels. They were like white paper that they had handwritten the name of the porn on it. And it would just stick it on. So you had no idea what you were buying. Like imagine going there. Maybe you wanted to see some big titties or a big ass or whatever, and you have no idea. The one that sticks in my head was called Hot Night.
Hey, did you ever see Hot Night?
Now, is there some clever spelling here?
No, it's just like a hot night. And I can remember this scene is that it's like it's like from the 70s. It's a 70s porn without a doubt. And they sneak into this bathroom as man and woman. And she drops to her knees and she's going down on him. And they cut the shot to the people on the outside of the door. And somebody starts walking in and knocks on the door, bangs on it really hard, goes back to the guy who's getting the blowjob. And his face just turns and goes, occupied. Fucking stuck with me for 30 years.
How many times did you rewatch that scene?
Dude, I would fucking kill to see that scene now. Because I know how I saw it in my head. I want to make sure it's still the same way. It's fucking perfect.
There was so I work the day gig I do. I'm in bars very, very early in the morning. And we clean the beer lines. So usually there it's like 5 a.m. starts. And for whatever reason, Charmed is just in syndication like 24/7, the old Alyssa Milano show. And I've watched probably 4 seasons of that show at this point, just because it's always on at all the bars, because that's where the NBA games are on TNT. And then at 5 a.m., they just leave the TVs on and I come in and it's Charmed. And I swear to God, there's a couple of seasons of that show. I've never seen an episode with the sound on, so I have no idea what they're talking about or doing. But some of the outfits they picked, I sat there, I was like, this is borderline Cinemax 2000s porn. You know what I mean? Like
on Charmed, was Melissa Milano, was it Rose McGowan?
Yeah.
He showed up because Shannon Doherty was there. That's like
Shannon Doherty was the other
she's one of my all times, man. They killed her off or something like that. Again, I don't watch it with the sound on, but the whole show, it seemed like there was always like, I would love to be the director on that show and like, all right, cool. So we're obviously we're going to resolve the plot twist here. And then the final part of the show is just going to be, all right, halter tops, everyone onto your halter tops for the final number. It's just, you can kind of understand, you know what I mean, why that show was so popular. When you see one of the older guys I work with, Gene, he's a great dude. He'll just every now and then I'll look up, he's just staring at the TV, like just stop dead in his tracks, just like, I can't believe it. You know what I mean? They're 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. That was a strange time for women's fashion too. That was it's I don't want to discredit the Me Too movement that a couple of those, Milano and Rose McGowan, both got involved with, but you're also sitting there and you're like, okay, women should be respected. That's not hard to do. Obviously you shouldn't be gross or a pig to women and stuff like that. But I'm also not looking for lectures on how they're more than just a piece of meat when they also used to wear thongs that purposefully stuck out of their lowrider jeans. You know what I mean? You're sending me mixed messages here, ladies.
So before we wrap this up, because listen, man, an hour goes by so fast. The name of the show is Who's Your Band? And we haven't even discussed any music yet. KP, are you a music guy?
I am, but it's only the stuff that I like. So there's some stuff I have some real lack of knowledge on. I know you guys are more well-versed than I.
I'll see if I can school you on it.
And who's your band? Like favorite band, artist, album, song, genre?
Huge. I would say my favorite band is Pearl Jam. My dog's name was Eddie. It was Eddie Vedder. We named him.
That's my dog's name.
That's the best, right? Yeah.
But it's after Iron Maiden.
There was a chick that was like a metalhead chick that when she met the dog, I was like, oh, this is Eddie. And she goes, you named your dog after Iron Maiden? And I was like, to keep this conversation going. Yes, I did. But, and then a huge, I recently, it's always fun when you get into something new that's been around forever. Cause then it's like, the whole kind of world opens up to you of it. I just am such a huge Tom Waits fan.
Tom Waits.
Yeah. Huge. I maybe 2 years ago, I think I started to first like really get into his stuff. And then now I've just bought almost every album, got a poster of him somewhere around here too. He's just about, he's something else, man.
Yeah. Definitely a fucking city comic now.
That and I like that he sings like I imagine Jim Florentine would sing.
That's true. That's so true. I mean, but I could see the similarities actually between Tom Waits and Pearl Jam, you know, where it is kind of like very, I don't know, I guess like more like a slower tempo. I know Pearl Jam will have songs like Animal and like, you know, some songs, you know, like that, but usually it's like poetic rock, you know. Would you say that's kind of true, Sean?
No, they're a rock and roll band. I mean, I know what you're trying to say, that they're not like, you know, some bands have like real bangers that are real fucking hard.
No, but I mean,
but you know, they're not like, they're a little more, you know, hard rock than rock.
Writers love to throw, like to put music and, you know, just art really in a category. And so Pearl Jam is kind of thrown in with, because of the way they look, was thrown in with grunge. But I mean, they're not your typical grunge band. I mean, they had the look, but I mean, when you look at, you know, they didn't sound, I thought, like Soundgarden or Alice in Chains or Nirvana, you know. And how could they all be in the same genre of music?
It's not. It was more of the lifestyle than it was the actual sound of the music, because you just said right there, you have Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, 3 different bands, 3 complete sounds. So how does that fall into? Look, I mean, it's stupid. It's just a label, you know, like heavy metal. People will call the Foo Fighters heavy metal.
Right. So it's Pearl Jam, Tom Waits. You ever see Pearl Jam?
That was my first concert. That's kind of where the love affair started.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, never seen anything like that before. Eddie Vedder came out before the opening band and played a couple of songs on guitar just to hang out with like the people that showed up early at PNC. And then it was Slater Kinney was the opener, and then Pearl Jam came out. They brought Slater Kinney back out to do Hunger Strike, and that's how talented Chris Cornell is too. By the way, that the female lead singer of Slater Kinney, who's a great singer, she couldn't hit the high notes that Chris Cornell was able to hit. So, but I'd never seen anything like that. It was a 3.5-hour concert by Pearl Jam, and I was like, "This is what everybody's like, right?" And then, like, I think the next concert I went and saw was Yes, who was a great band, but you know, maybe like a 50-minute show at most. So
Well, if when did you see him? How long ago did you see Yes?
Let's say
10 years?
two. It was during this the second term of George W. Bush's presidency.
Okay. Because they later on, wound up divided into two versions of Yes, one with John Anderson, one without John Anderson. And yeah, they would play like, but the thing is, they have to play, if they play like an hour and a half, that's really 3 or 4 songs.
Also true.
Where Jeff started talking like nerdily about fucking progressive rock from the 70s. It's happened.
I do like progressive rock. I like Yes, and unfortunately, last week, Music World suffered a couple of losses. One was Alan White, the drummer of Yes, and if you want to listen to some really great drumming with some off timing, just listen to a song like "Heart of the Sunrise" off of Fragile, which is just phenomenal. It is. Don't shake your head. It's a great one. And we also lost Andy Fletcher, who was the one of the keyboardists for Depeche Mode. And I don't know if you guys saw it today, the original bass player for Bon Jovi, was it John Such? Yeah, he just passed away.
Well, I didn't realize 70 years old too. I knew he was a little older than the rest of the bandmates, but which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, I remember, this is how old I am, man. I remember seeing him when he first started out in before he got Bon Jovi. He was in a cover band called Phantom's Opera. And, they used to play a lot of progressive rock. And he was a really great bass player at the time. He was a more advanced than the other guys. I think Tico was the only one in Bon Jovi who may have been as accomplished. And then Richie and John, and it's kind of grew and just surpassed them. And eventually he couldn't keep up with them.
Ronnie Hawkins died too.
Ronnie Hawkins?
Yeah, Ronnie Hawkins. So the other 3 bands that 3 artists I would say I'm huge, very, very, very big on is Pearl Jam. Tom Waits has really come up there big time. And then the band, Levon Helm and the boys, that's one of my favorite things ever. But Ronnie Hawkins was the guy that first assembled what went on to become the band, and they were his backing band on the road. He does, when you watch The Last Waltz, he comes out and does Who Do You Love? He's the Canadian guy with the cowboy hat on. So yeah.
How old?
Not sure. He just passed away though. Robbie Robertson wrote a very beautiful eulogy for him though. It was pretty cool.
That's a good singer and writer, Robbie Robinson.
He's great. He's cool. That to me, it was so crazy though, because The Last Waltz is like perfect. I mean, I could watch that. That's obviously it's a hack tradition to do it. You know what I mean? It's pretty on the nose, but you got to blast that on Thanksgiving Eve, and sit there with maybe a couple of cocktails and figure out where it takes you. But it's one of the greatest things I've ever seen. But Levon Helm is just like, I instantly was fascinated by that guy. And my biggest regret is that he came to Jacksonville 6 months before he died. And I forget what it was. I got into an argument with my girlfriend at the time that night. And I was like, fine, we don't have to go. So I had tickets and I said, we don't even have to go. That's fine if you're tired. And so I didn't go see him, and he died 6 months later.
Oh, and what about the girl?
Oh, you mean the one I escaped from Jacksonville? That's a pretty ridiculous story. I told the story on another podcast, but I wound up winning the whole battle I had to go through with her with the house. I'm not mad at her anymore. I think she's married with kids and stuff. I hope she's happy. It must. I will say this, I'm not trying to be petty because I think she's probably doing exactly what she wants to do, but there's a nice feeling when you do put out your first ever comedy special. You're on the road with comics that you've admired for years. You're writing good stuff that people are liking. And I don't know, it's kind of fun that if she ever, has that moment, which I live with 2 females, and they're very honest with me too about stuff. They're like, yeah, of course they check in on exes every now and then on social media. And she's got to scroll through a lot of show flyers and a lot of pictures of me on stage and, clips of me doing, comedy and stuff, all the things I told her I was going to do. So she's got to accept that, I did exactly what I said I was going to do.
She should have had faith and hung out with Mr. Burke. Before we wrap it up, the cover, the art of Escape from Jacksonville, a little bit of homage to Escape from New York.
Yes, sir. Done by I think everybody here knows him, the fabulous and talented and ridiculous human being that is Craig Mahoney.
One of my people I've ever met through comedy, and I've only met him like maybe 5 or 6 times. He's just part my whole way.
I never met him.
Oh, he's brilliant. He's a brilliant guy, but like you one of those kind of like tortured soul people. You know what I mean? Like has a lot of bad luck, but he's a brilliantly gifted artist.
He can do just about. I have like 5 or 6 different things because it used to be the tradition was just to commission a piece of art from him to give out as Christmas gifts to people. I had him. He hand drew picture of my grandfather in his uniform from World War II. That I gave to my aunt and my mother, and they were both crying, weeping because he just captured him so perfectly. He did a couple of Derek Jeter things that I gave to my sister because she's a huge Yankees fan. And then I had him do the cover thing for his. I told him, I was like, listen, it's going to be a painting. So he did a full-on painting of it. And then I told him, like, by the way, this is going to be the cover art for the thing. So he's really happy right now too, because I got I got a retweet from Kevin Smith the other day. Of him tweeting out that we filmed it at the Smodcast or whatever. And he tweeted out the art and Craig just lost his fucking mind. He's like, all right, so Kevin Smith just retweeted my art. That's pretty cool.
That is very cool. But how many shows did you wind up doing for the album?
So we did 2. And it's so funny because I remember doing the first one. I worked that day. I worked, so at like 5 a.m. I was awake. I think I slept for like 40 minutes. I took a nap like maybe an hour before the first show.
Why did you do that?
I don't know. I'm a glutton for punishment. I don't like letting people down. I just started the new job. I really liked it. So I was like, let me always just, I part of it too, I think I'm building up good karma for something. I don't know, but, so I wound up working that day, only a couple hours. It was like maybe a 5-hour day. Passed out real quick.
That's a whole fucking day, dude.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah. And then you're maybe at this time, your biggest night in comedy. And
for sure.
You would think like you would just want to like rest and be laser focused, and you're going out and you're working a day and just like in a way that's kind of good because your mind isn't on it. But I mean, and I don't know any other comic that would have done that.
It was I'll tell you what, I was hurting by the end of it, but it was so funny because I got there and I was so, we've all done shows together too. I like to have a drink or so before I go up on like a longer set, and I remember not having enough time to even have a drink. So I think the only beer I had for the whole first show was the one I walked out on stage with. And I don't think I even finished that while I was up there. I had no time to think. And I also remember sitting there saying, I went out of order on a couple of things and I did some stuff that I normally don't do. I was just trying to make sure I could do the time. I was like, because I was banking on it. I said, the 7 o'clock is going to be good. The 9 o'clock is where all my like buddies are coming, like the bar buddies, guys I've grown up with. They're going to just be nonstop laughing. It's going to be great. I sold out both shows, which was great. It's not a big place either, but just knowing that I had 2 full crowds, it wasn't going to be like, the first show sold out and then you got 20 people for the second one, which could be depressing. But we did, I got through the first one. The crowd was so hot and just excited. And then the second one, they came out and they were cool. But the problem was all my friends are degenerates. So they were all drinking in the parking lot waiting to come in. So half of them are already drunk and then it's late. It's like 10 o'clock at night. And I walked off stage and the way I felt, I think you guys you'll appreciate this too. You feel like the show was better as a comic because they weren't giving it up too easy for you. So to me, the better comedy show is the second one. And then like my mom was even saying, I was like, yeah, I think the second one might be good. And my mother's just like, no, you're a moron. The 7 o'clock was the one. And then sure enough, we watched the tape back and I was like, I think the entire cut of the album is actually the 7 o'clock show.
That's great.
Yeah, it was, but then you up on stage, that just shows how ridiculous we are. You can't, like, when you feel like if you're connecting with a crowd, if they're making you work for it and then you're earning it, you feel better. But the way that it played for the 7 o'clock was just, it was like getting a hand job up there, man. It was pretty great.
Nice.
So again, before we call this a night, and we thank you so much for coming on.
I love you, jerks.
And just let people know again how they can get the CD and how they can follow you on for American Loser.
Well, thank you, man. It's good to hang with you boys too. to be clear, Sean invited me on like maybe a year ago, and I didn't have this nice fancy microphone or any of my other setup stuff yet too. So I wanted to do it right. And so I appreciate that. And then I do love you, Jerks. It's good to talk to you. And if people want to check the album out, it's called Escape from Jacksonville. The best way to help me out with that one is if you watch it on YouTube, just leave a comment. You can say who's your band in the comments, so I know that it came from your guys' people. And then the clips are all up there. It's at KP Burke Sucks over on Instagram. I deleted my Twitter again already because I just hate that website. KP Burke over on Facebook. And American Loser podcast comes out every Tuesday. So that's actually what I have to go do after this, is because I'm miserable. I can't have a fun conversation with my friends. I have such low self-esteem. I have to write a term paper every week about a weird topic from history to go talk about with my dad. But that's the jam for right now, man. It's Escape from Jacksonville. It's going very well, and I appreciate you guys. And thank you for watching it too, by the way, man. That was very nice of you when you messaged me.
No, my pleasure, man. It was like I said, I enjoy it. And when you do see like your friends, but especially you, I remember when you first came to New York, to see you, grow as a comedian, as a person, and to put this out. And I know the type of labor it takes to hit that. People think it's so easy, and it's not. But to see how good it turned out, trust me, I was very proud, very happy for you. So. Yeah, so we're out. And guys, thank you so much for listening. We will catch you next week with a whole new episode of Who's Your Band. Continue to follow us, continue to subscribe, and we'll catch you next week. Thanks. Thank you, KP.
Love Sean, you guys, man.
I'll talk to you soon. Take care, guys.